this word is not tropic, it's trophic, okay? Trophic meaning to nourish or to stimulate. And these are the types of hormones that influence other tissues to do something else. That's what trophic means, okay? So we know we have our different locations over here. So there's a hypothalamus. Okay. The anterior pituitary. And then the respective endocrine organs or endocrine glands. Okay. Now we know, because of what we just said with that portal system, that the hypothalamus uses, the portal circulation to access the anterior pituitary, okay? So portal circulation here. And then the anterior pituitary will use the systemic circulation to send these hormones out into the blood. Okay. Now let's list the hormones, the primary hypothalamic tropic hormones. There's prolactin releasing hormone. And I'll put RH, which means releasing hormone. That means it's going to stimulate the anterior pituitary to release a hormone. Okay. Prolactin inhibitory hormone. Then there's thyroid releasing hormone, cortisol releasing hormone, growth hormone releasing hormone. I'll just put GHRH, that's growth hormone releasing hormone, growth hormone inhibiting hormone, and then gonadotropin releasing hormone, okay? I'll put G, this is a long word, I'll put GNRH, okay? So let's go over those again. Prolactin releasing hormone, prolactin inhibiting hormone, thyroid releasing hormone, cortisol releasing hormone, growth hormone releasing hormone, growth hormone inhibiting hormone, and gonadotropin releasing hormone. That's going to affect the gonads, okay? Now, we know that releasing hormones are going to excite or encourage prolactin release. Inhibiting hormones are going to block or negate prolactin release, okay? So these two hormones are going to affect the anterior pituitary's release of prolactin, okay? Prolactin releasing hormone will excite it, prolactin inhibiting hormone will block it. Thyroid releasing hormone is going to stimulate thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone, okay? So don't confuse the stimulating hormone and the releasing hormone here, okay? Thyroid releasing hormone stimulates the anterior pituitary to release thyroid stimulating hormone. Cortisol releasing hormone facilitates the release of ACTH, okay, ACTH, which is adrenocorticotropic hormone, okay, a long word that you don't have to memorize. Just know ACTH is stimulated or is released from the anterior pituitary. Now, growth hormone releasing hormone and its inhibiting hormone will block on this side and stimulate here on this side the release of growth hormone, okay? And then finally, gonadotropin releasing hormone will stimulate the release of FSH and LH. Okay, So these are anterior pituitary hormones. And this is how the hypothalamus influences the anterior pituitary to release these relative hormones. Okay. Now, let's look at the effect of these hormones here and what the endocrine gland that these hormones target is. So we know that prolactin targets the breast. Prolactin is going to stimulate milk production. Okay, oxytocin is milk letdown or ejection. Prolactin is milk production. Thyroid releasing hormone stimulates TSH release, and TSH release acts on the thyroid gland. Okay, we'll talk about what happens in a minute from the thyroid gland. Cortisol releasing hormone stimulates the anterior pituitary to release ACTH. This acts on the adrenal cortex, not the medulla, the adrenal cortex, which is the outer lighter staining part of the medulla of the adrenal. Okay, and then GHRH, GHIH stimulates growth hormone release from the anterior pituitary. Growth hormone release is going to act on two things. It's going to act on our liver. It has an anabolic effect, just like insulin. And then it's also going to act on our other body cells, right? Bone cells, muscle cells. It's going to stimulate growth in those types of tissues. And then finally, FSH and LH acts on our gonads. I'll just put this here. Okay. Now let's talk about what each of these does quickly here. So thyroid gland is going to stimulate the release of T3 and T4, which is thyroid hormone, more so T3. We'll talk about this. ACTH stimulates the adrenal cortex to release cortisol. We'll talk about the actions of cortisol. It's like our stress hormone. Growth hormone stimulates the liver to secrete here insulin-like growth factors. Insulin, I'll write this out. Insulin-like growth factor. Okay. And this helps to stimulate growth of our tissues. Again, it has an anabolic effect, kind of like insulin, which is to uptake glucose into the cells. Alrighty. And then lastly, the gonads have a lot of different functions, as we know, but it's mainly going to stimulate testes and ovaries. Testes to secrete androgens, running out of space, and then ovaries. I'm going to write this really small. The ovaries secrete estrogen and progesterone. Okay, I hope that's not confusing. I ran out of space. So the testes secrete androgens and the ovaries secrete estrogen and progesterone. Alrighty, so this is the sequence of events of how the hypothalamus controls the anterior pituitary, and the anterior pituitary controls all of these endocrine glands. Okay. We'll talk about how each of the glands facilitate. We'll talk about these glands individually and how each of them release their hormone, but it's really important for you to understand the big picture of how this is controlled from the hypothalamus level, okay? Also, I want to point out here that these hormones will have an effect on the hypothalamus. So this is a loop. It's not just a one-way flow of communication. These hormones will in turn have an effect on how the hypothalamus behaves, okay? And we'll pick up this next time. All right.